My name is K.Hyman, and this is my Phylogenic Diversity project. The first sample I collected from this project was an earthworm. I collected this specimen on March the 23rd, 2024. It came from out of the soil from the San Suzy Ferry. Here is an piece. Here is a specimen. Um, the worm was actually way bigger than that, but I tried to solute it in water and alcohol, and once I put it in the alcohol, it made the worm shrink up and die, I guess. Or, yeah, because it was way bigger than that. But once I put it in the alcohol to preserve it, it, yeah, just shrunk up or whatnot. Um, an earthworm is a terrestrial creature that lives in soil. Their burrowing activities mix the soil and improve the flow of air and water through the ground. Their nerves can detect light, vibrations, and some taste. They disrupt the symbiotic relationship between soil fungi and roots. Climate change affects the soil, which could possibly affect the worms. Worms prefer moist and warm conditions. So the day that I collected this specimen, it was about 75 degrees outside or a little higher. Um, Half of the worm was sticking outside of the ground and then half was inside. So I'm guessing the worm was out because of the warm weather and then the moist soil. Uh, the next specimen I collected was algae. This specimen also came from the San Suzy River. Uh, this actually came out of the river. I collected this on March the 23rd, 2024. Um, Here is the sample of the algae. At first, when I first collected the algae, it was together, but once I put the alcohol and water mixture, or put it in the alcohol and water mixture, it kind of spread it apart. I think it's salt water in it also because I took some of the water from the ferry and also put it in the specimen. Um, Algae can be found in all types of waters, including salt waters, fresh waters, and blackish water, which is what the ferry is, blackish water. Algae flourishes under different environment conditions. Excess nitrogen and phosphorus can cause algae blooms. Some algae produces toxins. Algae is very harmful or can be very harmful to humans. Algae thrives off nutrients of uneaten food and fish waste. Algae can survive in temperatures high enough to kill most plants. So the idea of collecting this specimen was to just keep keep it in water, I guess, to preserve it. But when I looked online, it showed that algae wouldn't like evaporate or anything if you were to leave it out. So I just could have left it in its original form, and it still would have looked the same. It probably would have been still bunched up together by now. Um, yeah, the next specimen I collected was a mushroom. This mushroom was collected on March the 24th, 2024. I got this specimen from out of my neighbor's backyard. Here is the mushroom. As you can see, it's sticking up and it's kind of looking like mucus or something. Like here it is right here, sticking to the bottom of the thing, bottom of the bottle. It's a mushroom. When I collected it, my neighbor told me that it was a wild mushroom, so I had to use gloves and a shovel kind of to remove it from the ground because it was really in the ground. But yeah, mushrooms, which are produced by fungi, live in soils, inside the tissue of leaves, and in rainforests, and in the oceans. Mushrooms are decomposers, which mean they break down plant and animal debris. This is to cycle nutrients and increase the availability in soil. Mushrooms adapt to live in warm weather. Um, Mushrooms are very wild, I guess. Some mushrooms are wild to the point where if you touch it, it'll have you have hives or something, or the smell from the mushroom have toxins or something like that. That's why I collected. I made sure I checked before I collected the mushroom. And you really can't. Some mushrooms look so much of the same that you can't tell them apart. You can't tell if they're toxic or just normal mushrooms that you can eat from like out the garden. But where I picked the mushroom from, I could tell that it wasn't like a garden mushroom, like a mushroom you can eat. Um, the next the next specimen I collected was uh crab. I cannot really tell which part of the crab this is, but it's like tough. It was real hard, but I let it soak and um I let it sit in water for a couple of days, but I ended up taking it out because it was so small, and I really couldn't tell if it was the tail or like the thumb part of the crab, but I collected it from one of the rivers near my house, and I was out there supposedly catching fish for this specific specimen, but it ended up being a crab something on the end of the hook. So I just decided to take the crab and use this instead. But yeah, like I said, I really can't tell which part of the crab it is. It looks like the end piece of a leg or something. But yeah, crabs are found in all oceans and in fresh water. Some crabs live on land, sometimes several miles from water. Crabs are key organisms for connecting aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. So crabs basically live in the water and on land. Some may live further than others. They have few predators and aggressively hunts for prey. Crabs destroy habitats. When sea levels and salinity are affected, so are crabs. So basically, crabs use their shells to protect themselves, unless it's by like a very big terrestrial animal. Crabs basically defend themselves with their shells. Um, the next specimen I collected or that I had was a snail. I collected this snail on March the 30th, 2024. Um, I actually left the snail out for a while, and I guess the snail evaporated or something like that. Um, I left it out in the sun for a little too long, and the body of the shell evaporated, and then the shell ended up cracking into pieces. I researched that could happen if you leave it out in the sun for too long. I didn't know that, so yeah, I don't have a snail to present, but snails move from tropical rainforests to mountains, Arctic regions, and deserts. Snails shred and transform organic substances. Snails only affect leaves badly. So snails basically use leaves as their food. They eat holes out of the leaves instead of eating whole leaves. By eating rich foods and lime, snails build their shells to protect themselves. So basically, shells are just like crabs, but very, very smaller. They use their shells to protect themselves or their bodies, and basically they wouldn't have to worry about anything other than a big terrestrial animal like eagle or something. Um, High rainfall may affect snails' habitats. Uh, the next specimen I collected was a pine cone. Here's a pine cone. The pine cone came right from out the back of my yard. I collected this pine cone on March the 30th, 2024. Um, Pine cones are members of all types of forests and some local areas. The main function of a pine cone is to keep a pine tree seed safe. Climate change is preventing the production of pine cones. Pine cones have shaped figures, which are the sharp parts of the pine cone, which you usually can't touch, but this one is so small that I really can't feel the little pointy things. They use this to keep animals from eating the seeds inside. Um, when like a bigger pine cone, when you can't really touch the sides of it because the pricks are so sharp. But as I said, this is used to keep animals from eating the seeds inside, so that pine trees can reproduce. Next specimen I collected was a bird's foot, or the something of a bird. I really couldn't. I was really shocked about collecting this at first, but yeah, it looks like the foot of a bird. I don't know what kind of bird, cause like it really looks like something else. But yeah, it's the fin or something of a bird. Um, Birds' habitats varies from human-related environments such as building areas, parks, rural areas, and farmland. Also, ponds. Birds play many roles such as predators, pollinators, scavengers, and ecosystem engineers. Rising temperatures and shifting weather patterns affect birds' ability to find food and reproduce. This is why birds migrate. Um, the sample that I had I thought it was a feather, but I let one of my family members look at it closely, and they said that it was a foot, a bird's foot, or it kind of looks like a chicken foot, but yeah, it's a bird's foot, and like it's a piece broke off of it. I don't know how old this is, but yeah, a piece broke off of the foot. Um, that's it for my phylogenic um project.